Congressman Smith.
President Obama's slick public relations offensive on Friday contained neither an accommodation, nor a compromise, nor a change in his coercion rule. The final rule promulgated Friday remains a direct, obnoxious, unprecedented government attack on the conscience rights of religious entities and anyone else who, for moral reasons, cannot and will not pay for abortion-inducing drugs such as Ella or contraception and sterilization procedures in their private insurance plans. Mr. Obama is arrogantly using the coercive power of the state to force faith-based charities, hospitals, and schools to conform to his will at the expense of conscience. Mr. Obama's means of coercing compliance, ruinous fines of $2,000 per employee when faith-based organizations refuse to comply, will impose incalculable harm on millions of children educated in faith-based schools and the poor, sick, disabled, and frail elderly who are served with such compassion and dignity by faith-based organizations like Catholic Relief Services. 70,000 employees in Catholic Relief Services. The bill, the fine, would be $140 million when they refuse to comply. The Respect for Rights Conscience Act, introduced by Mr. Fortenberry, reasserts and restores conscience rights by making absolutely clear that no one can be compelled to subsidize certain so-called services in private insurance plans contrary to their religious beliefs or moral convictions.
Thank you.
Congressman Steve Scalise from Louisiana's 1st District. I want to thank Congressman Fortenberry for taking the lead in defending religious freedoms and filing legislation that I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of. All of us up here are proud to support this legislation that would protect those religious freedoms by overturning the ruling. Earlier this month, over 150 members of Congress signed this letter to Secretary Sebelius calling on her to overturn the rule. And let's be clear about the final rule that came out after the president's political speech that he gave last week. This is the final rule, and I'll read from it. It says, "These regulations finalize without change interim final regulations." There is absolutely nothing in this final rule that changes the original mandate that violates the religious freedoms of not only religious organizations, but of employers who have those same religious beliefs. And while, if you've got a president who thinks that he can dictate which religious freedoms we can exercise, that's a president who thinks he has the power to overturn those same religious freedoms. And we're standing up here today to say that the president cannot pick and choose which of the Bill of Rights he's going to try to repeal. We're going to stand in the way and prevent that from happening.
Thank you, Steve. Let me let Jim, and then would you wait for a question? Can you do that? Okay. Okay. I thought we were done, but I would be remiss if I didn't let Congressmember Sensenbrenner speak, who's been a long advocate for religious freedom and a member of the Judiciary Committee.
Thank you very much. I'm Congressman Jim Sensenbrenner from Wisconsin. Almost 35 years ago, when I was a member of the Wisconsin Assembly, I was one of 4 authors of the first conscience protection bill in the nation that was passed. And the 3 of us and me ended up introducing this legislation because we feel that one of the first jobs of government is to protect the religious freedom of everybody in the United States of America. This is one of the things that has brought people from all over the country to our shores, and many of them fled religious persecution when their ancestors came here. Today, religious freedom is under attack by the President and Secretary Sebelius's regulations that they had the power to issue under the Obamacare law. The modification that was announced by the President last Friday is probably worse than the original announcement that was made on January 20th. And the reason for that is that it will end up forcing religious affiliated institutions to pay for services indirectly that they will not pay for directly because it violates their firmly held moral and religious beliefs. It is no different in assaulting religious freedom if you're making somebody do something indirectly that they are not going to do directly. And that is why this regulation should be opposed as vigorously as the first regulation that was announced in January by the Secretary of Health and Human Services. I commend Congressman Fortenberry for introducing the legislation to protect religious conscience rights long before this controversy began. We have to do everything possible to reverse what the President and the Secretary of Health and Human Services are doing. And whether it's this means as a standalone bill, whether it is this language that is added on to other bills that the President has to sign, or whether it is for another means, we have to continue to do this job, not only to protect religious conscience rights, but to be able to protect the heritage of the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Virginia, did you want to say a few words? Then we'll end there.
I want to support very strongly both what all my colleagues have said, but particularly what Anne-Marie Buerkle said and what Congressman Sensenbrenner said. And I want to say to the press, I want you to read the quote from Martin Niemöller. They came for the trade unionists and I didn't speak up. They came for the Baptists, I didn't speak up. But they came for me and there was no one left to speak up. I'm paraphrasing. You know, the right, freedom of religion is the first part of the First Amendment. You guys are in there too, and you need to be thinking about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Virginia.